last half of the 19th century saw major advancements in gearing technology. These advances set the stage for the expanded use of gears in the 20th and 21st centuries, including automobiles, heavy industry, material handling, mass transit, agriculture, and defense. By 1915, the auto industry was booming, with nearly 1 million cars sold. But the lack of process and product standardization was a problem in all U.S. industry. The U.S. military in particular was finding the lack of standards unwieldy. By 1916, the government was calling on the gear industry to create standards to define gear type, tooth size, tolerances, and manufacturing processes. Standards would make it easier to obtain interchangeable gears from multiple sources to meet national security needs. After a German submarine sank the ocean liner Lusitania, the U.S. decided to enhance its defense capabilities. With the mass production of military equipment, the standardization of gears became imperative. The U.S. entered World War I in April 1917. Led by Pittsburgh companies Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing and its subsidiary R.D. Nuttall, 9 gear companies began talks on forming a trade association. It wasn't easy, as the industry was very competitive. But the Westinghouse and Nuttall leaders persevered, and by late 1916, the 9 companies agreed to form the American Gear Manufacturers Association, AGMA, to advance and improve the gear industry by standardization of gear design, manufacture, and application. By the time of its first annual meeting in May 1917, 10 more companies had joined, giving AGMA 19 founding members. World War I was the beginning of major defense contracts for many gear manufacturers. In September 1918, at AGMA's second fall meeting in Syracuse, New York, F.W. Seinram, president of AGMA, noted that gears were crucial to all elements of the war industry, including mining, airplanes, motor trucks, automobiles, and submarines. World War I and the formation of AGMA rapidly advanced work on gear standards. But AGMA's work on standards did not end with the war. By 1919, AGMA had 25 committees, the majority of them dealing with standards. By 1921, AGMA had grown to 94 member companies. The U.S. stock market crashed on October 29, 1929, panicking Wall Street and bankrupting millions of investors. The Depression almost ruined AGMA, as some member companies failed and others were unable to pay dues. AGMA survived the Depression due to financial support from its machine tool members. The United States entered World War II in 1941. Again, the gear industry was critical to the war effort. The leap from the slow business of the Depression to the flurry of wartime orders caused some unique challenges, including the need to hire women to replace the men enlisting in the war. But AGMA members rose to the challenge. The military established the Army-Navy E Award to recognize excellence in war production. Only 5% of eligible factories received the award. Among them were many AGMA members. At the end of World War II, war-weary Americans were starved for consumer goods. the U.S. automotive industry roared back, with over 8 million passenger vehicles built in 1950, with 9 million in 1955. World War II produced many improvements in gear technology, standards, and manufacturing. Taking advantage of these wartime advances, every new vehicle transmission and axle utilized superior carburized and lapped bevel gears and heat-treated and shaved helical gears, a big change from the relatively inaccurate gear teeth of 30 years prior. After World War II, the aviation industry mass-produced civilian airplanes, and the jet engine and turboprop engine were developed. In agriculture, the advances in mechanization meant more food could be grown by fewer farmers. In 1940, farmers were 18% of the workforce. By 1950, that number had dropped to 12%. Meanwhile, AGMA continued its work on standards and added new committees for gear applications, such as the Aircraft Gearing Committee, the Radar and Interception Device Control Gear Committee, and the Rocket and Missile Gear Committee. By 1951, AGMA had 127 members and a staff of 7. The 1960s were a time of great turmoil. The Soviet Union shot down an American U-2 spy plane on May 1, 1960. On May 25, 1961, U.S. President John F. Kennedy challenged his nation to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
The Cold War and the space race created new challenges for AGMA members. U.S. involvement in Vietnam escalated after the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964. Many AGMA members contributed to the U.S. military's efforts in Vietnam and the Cold War. For example, the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, used by the U.S. Air Force from 1964 to 1998, included spur and bevel gears made by an AGMA member. The Blackbird could photograph all of North Korea in 7 minutes and was never shot down. Boeing manufactured thousands of helicopters for use in Vietnam, utilizing parts built by other AGMA member companies. In the 1960s and 1970s, AGMA focused on attracting more U.S. and international members. By 1961, AGMA had a total of 178 members. That number rose to 235 in 1971. In the 1970s, AGMA members eagerly embraced new computer technology. In 1972, Hewlett-Packard introduced the first pocket calculator with scientific functions, the HP 35. Gear engineers quickly abandoned their slide rules and Frieden adding machines for the new gadget. Computer-aided design, CAD, developed throughout the 1970s and was widely accepted as an engineering tool by the end of the decade. Computerized numerical control gear-cutting machines came into the mainstream in the 1980s. In September 1986, the American National Standards Institute accredited AGMA to write U.S. standards on gearing. This provided AGMA with increased recognition for its technical standards and papers, and generated more international acceptance of AGMA standards. In October 1986, AGMA assumed the leadership role of the U.S. Technical Advisory Group, TAG, to the International Standards Organization, ISO, Technical Committee 60 on Gear Standards. In 1993, AGMA assumed the role of ISO Technical Committee 60 Secretary, a position it holds to this day. The AGMA Foundation was established in 1994 to fund AGMA's work in ISO. The foundation now funds gear research at universities, scholarships for engineering students, and AGMA's centennial research and education activities. The first Gear Expo, a small 22-exhibit tabletop exhibition at the 1986 Fall Technical Meeting in Chicago, was an instant success. Now a biennial event, Gear Expo attracts hundreds of exhibitors and thousands of visitors from around the world. As gear technology advanced, the industry needed high-quality workforce education. In a spirit of selfless cooperation, AGMA members came together to create industry-wide education programs. The extremely popular week-long basic training for gear manufacturing course was launched in December 1992. In addition, AGMA contracted with outside instructors, among them industry luminaries Ray Drago and Bob Arichello, for advanced training courses forming an Advanced Gear Engineering Academy. AGMA established a presence in the World Wide Web in 1997 and came into the new millennium as a stronger, vibrant, and more influential trade association. AGMA membership increased to 414 in 2010, and in this 100th anniversary year stands at more than 500 member companies from 34 different countries. As AGMA contemplates its next 100 years, countless new gear products are being developed for applications as old as windmills and as new as space exploration. AGMA also envisions the creation of a global language and uniform definition related to gear design and manufacturing. Congratulations to all on this centennial anniversary as we celebrate 100 years of gearing.